Bar graph data. Today your learning target is I can interpret data and use addition and subtraction. And you'll know you're successful today when you can add and subtract to answer questions about bar graphs. Today we are going to be working on a bar graph. And this time I have a bar graph that gave us some information. And then the other information's in the bar graph, and we're going to have to fill out the rest with the table and answer the questions. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. This bar graph that I'm going to be showing you today is about the fastest insects. Okay, so bugs. And I don't really like bugs very much, but I know a lot of you might. And I know when I was a kid I liked bugs, so this would be a cool bar graph if you really like bugs. If you don't, like me, well, it's still really important to look at the data and answer the questions, okay? So aside from liking bugs or not, let's answer these questions. So with our bar graph today, I have a table, and as I said, it gave us most of the information, right, about the speed of each insect, but it did not give us the speed of this hawk moth, okay? But if I look at the bar graph, I see hawk moth right here, and it's not a 0 like you would think if it was blank. I at first thought it must be a 0, but I looked at the bar graph and it's not. So then I have to fill that out. And then after that, it looks like I'll have to fill in the rest of the bars with the information they gave us. We'll have a completed bar graph, and then we'll be able to answer these questions. So with this bar graph, let's look at the hawk moth and fill that in first. Hawk moth, it looks like this is counting by 5s up here. And if I look at hawk moth, I am just going to use my finger and kind of look over to see. It's really close to the 35. I'm going to outline that line so you can see like where it is, and then you'll tell me, is it really at 35 or am I going to have to estimate and use a different number? I tried my best in drawing a straight line just so that you can see that there are lines on my graph, but it's really hard to see in the video. So when you look at hawk moth, I tried to draw a line about to where that is. And the 35 is actually not at that line. Okay? This is where 35 is, where I just drew that small line. It's not at the 35. So I am going to have to estimate and know that my number is between 30 and 35. And it's really close to the 35. So I would call that estimating to 34 because it looks like it's about 1 away. It is so close to the 35. If it was like more in the middle of 30 and 35, then I would think of a different number, maybe 32 or 33. But it's so close to 35 that it's 34 that I'm going to write in my table to complete that table. The table's done, but now I have to fill in the rest of my bar graph. So by looking at Bumblebee, I'll try my best in finding 18. Again, remember, it's counting by 5s, so I'm going to have to estimate and give it my best guess and put 18 where I think it should go. The same with the deer botfly with 27. That's not a 20, a 25, or a 30. So in between 25 and 30, I'll have to make my best guess where that would go. And the same with hornet, 21. It'll have to just be really close above the 20. So I'll fill that out right now and we'll answer the questions. So I filled out my bar graph the best that I could. Remember that I don't have exact numbers for the bar graph that were tens, so I had to estimate and guess about where they would go. So with the Bumblebee at 18, I just had to make sure it was between the 15 and the 20, kind of a little bit higher than in the middle of 15 and 20. And then with the deer botfly, It was more in the middle of 25 and 30 because it was 27, so kind of in the middle. And with Hornet, it was just above the 20 because it was 21, so just a tiny bit higher than 20. Okay, so my bar graph is complete, so is my table up here. Let's answer the questions. So the first one is estimate how fast a hawk moth can fly. And we did that when we looked at our table, remember? The hawk moth was the only one that was blank. I had to estimate because on the bar graph, it was really close to 35, but it wasn't quite there. So our estimate was 34, remember? Next problem. It says a dragonfly can fly twice as fast as a hornet. True or false? So in order to do that, I need to look at the dragonfly, which is at 40, and the hornet's at 21. And is that true that the dragonfly is twice as fast as the hornet? If that were true, the hornet would be at 20 miles per hour, not 21, because 20 plus 20 would be 40, and that would be twice as fast, right? The dragonfly being twice as fast. But the hornet's at 21, and the dragonfly's still at 40, so that's not quite twice as fast. So that's actually going to be false, okay? Okay, so for number 4, a cheetah can run at 64 miles per hour. How much faster than a dragonfly is this? Okay, so we have to use that number 64. Even though I know we don't have cheetahs in our bar graph, this is part of the question. So a cheetah can run at 64 miles per hour. And how much faster than a dragonfly is this? So I'm going to use the number 64. And I'm going to subtract the dragonfly number. And what was that again? 40. Because that will tell me how much faster that cheetah is, since that's the higher number. What would be 64 minus 40? If I look at my ones, I have 4 minus 0 is 4. And 60 minus 40 is 20. So that's 24. So my answer is 24 miles per hour. The last one today is how much faster is the deer botfly than the bumblebee? So I'm going to kind of cross off some of my other information right here at the bottom of my page because I'm going to use the bottom. How much faster is the deer botfly? Okay, that's 40. Then the bumblebee. Bumblebee was 18. So what am I going to do to find that number? It's a lot like that last problem. What did we do up there? I took the biggest number, deer botfly, was 27, bumblebee was 18, so 27. And I subtracted the smaller number, 18. And then what would I get? Ooh, this time I can't use my strategy of looking at my ones. 7 minus 8? That's impossible. So I would have to do some rethinking or regrouping. I'm not going to do the algorithm, though. I'll just do this a different way. So let me do 27 minus 10. That would be 17. And then minus 8. But if I split my 8 into a 7 and a 1, 17 minus 7 is 10. And 10 minus 1 more would be 9. So how much faster is that deer botfly than the bumblebee? 9 miles per hour. So today you are going to have a bar graph. It will look a little bit like this, and please make sure that you make sure the table is complete, you make sure your bar graph is complete, and you answer the questions by using your math. All right, so have fun today and keep working hard. So remember, your learning target today is I can interpret data and use addition and subtraction. And you'll know you're successful today when you can add and subtract to answer questions about bar graphs.